So this is the poem. As you can see here, I think you can look at the poem. You can see the poem. This is the Griffon's Grouse. In the English translation, this is called the Griffon's Grouse. So here, actually, you must have read in Bengali, Abol Tabol, and it is called Hukomukho Hangla. So the Bengali version has a different kind of a name or title, but Professor Shukanto Choudhury, who has translated this book into English, he has translated this as Griffon. Now, a Griffon is actually a mythological creature, and uh, it has a strange appearance. It is also spelled as Gryphon. It is a legendary or mythological creature with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle. So, obviously, a mythological creature which exists only in mythology. It is not, obviously, you cannot find this creature in real life, a griffin. So, Shukanto Choudhury translates this poem as the Griffon's Grouse. And so, this poem, Hukumukho Hangla. So, grouse means kind of a complaint, uh, some kind of complaint that is made by this creature who is called Griffon in Bengali and Hukumukho Hangla in English, and Hukumukho Hangla in Bengali. So now let us read this poem. The Griffon-ling from birth is indisposed to mirth. To laugh or grin he counts a sin, and shudders not on earth. So the Griffon-ling means obviously the small griffon, which after birth it is taught, or there is a rule in their society that they would not laugh. So it is forbidden. Laughter is forbidden. Now, obviously, is indisposed means to fall sick, but here, if it means that it is very much uh, a creature which does not laugh. So it is taught or conditioned in such a way that uh, laughing or grinning or showing any kind of mirthful behavior is forbidden. So the griffin is like this. He counts a sin. So obviously it is a sin in the griffin society. And obviously it is a very strange thing because no one knows why the griffin uh, lives like this. Um, so actually, I'm sorry. The Bengali version is Ram Goru Rechana. Ram Goru Rechana, not Hukumukho Hangla. Actually, it is a different poem, Hukumukho Hangla, but that is not in our syllabus. So this is Ram Guru Rechana. We are familiar with the poem. So the Ram Guru Rechana, it is not going to laugh. It is a kind of a creature that is forbidden to laugh. So it has to observe these rules, not laughing, and shudders not on earth. So not only his life. So obviously it is not going to laugh. It is a grave sin. He is always in a jitter, lest you should laugh or titter. So always in a jittery or very nervous kind of a mood. So unsure of himself. So it is always in a jitter, lest you should laugh or titter. Uh, Laugh is, of course, laughing out loudly, but titter, it is a kind of laugh which is in a very suppressed way. So it is not a loudly, not laughing out loudly, but in a suppressed way. So in a nervous way, embarrassed to nervous way. So if you laugh in front of him, that is its mortal fear, and peers around at every sound with visage grim and bitter. So he's always on the lookout for people or any creature, any other creature or people who would perhaps make it laugh. So anyone who is in a very joyful mood, in a happy mood, obviously he or she would be laughing. But the griffin is obviously not at all uh, someone, a creature who likes all these joyful laughs. So he is always on the lookout, peers around, meaning he is looking out secretively. Visage means the face, how he looks. So it is obviously his face would reflect his anxiety, the kind of anxiety he feels, lest anyone should laugh, lest dignity be marred. He's always on his guard. So he's always on his guard, meaning he's always on the lookout. So he is very serious about this, and he is always looking here and there to find out any person who might laugh in front of him. So, if anyone laughs, because laughter is forbidden in their society, his self respect or dignity would be severely damaged or marred, as it is called here. So, that is something that the griffin is, of course, it doesn't want to happen. If I should splutter or scream, he will mutter, my, I'll catch it hard. So if anyone splutter, of course, means to speak with difficulty. Uh, if anyone becomes very embarrassed or angry, then the words would not. If one is in an emotional, excited state, then the words would not come out clearly, and it would become a kind of a splutter. So if anyone does that, splutters or screams in front of him, then he will mutter, my, I'll catch it hard. So this would be a kind of a really death blow for it, for this griffin, the griffins rather. So the Ramgurure Chana or the griffin is a strange creature because it cannot allow anyone to laugh. So my I'll catch it hard, meaning it would be a kind of a grievous injury for him, not physical but mental. Now you can look at the the illustration drawn by Sukumar Rai. This is the Ramgurure Chana, uh, and obviously Hashi Nishid. The sign reads laughter not allowed. He won't go near the wood because he's understood the tipsy breeze among the trees may cheer his solemn mood. So the griffin is very particular uh, about going into the forest. The wood means the forest because he knows or he has definite information that the tipsy breeze. Now, tipsy actually means slightly drunk or mildly intoxicated. Now, here the tipsy breeze, of course, it doesn't mean drunk breeze, but a relaxed or a slightly relaxing breeze, which obviously will rouse someone to a happy state. So he is not going to go to the forest because the breeze blowing through the trees might rouses laughter, and the solemn and serious mood that he is in, obviously it will be disturbed. And all the sky vapors are merely feckless japers. So the vapors of the sky, meaning the clouds or the all kinds of atmospheric phenomena. Feckless, obviously, feckless means something that is incompetent or lacking in initiative, lacking in effectiveness. So these are uh, called as feckless japers. Japers, this is a word which obviously it means that a kind of thing that is uh, it's a kind of a someone who tells jokes or mocks at someone else or plays uh, pranks. So all these practical jokes are and all the sky vapors are merely feckless japers, so of no use at all. So the Griffon, obviously, uh, it finds all signs of mirth and the steam of laughter that might form to be useless, completely useless. They mount the cloud with laughter loud in swift celestial capers. So capers is a kind of a lively movement. So all the laughter, all the mirth that the Griffon encounters, obviously, it would not have any kind of use for it. So it's a frivolous, kind of a frivolous activity. All these things are frivolous activities, useless activities, feckless japers, as it is called. So they mount the cloud with laughter loud in swift celestial capers. So it's a kind of a useless thing. And that is why the grouse, the griffon rather, it is uh, quite it has a very much distaste for all these things. Okay, so obviously we find that this creature is a most of a most unusual kind. When night begins to wake in every bush and brake, the dancing gleams of glowworm beams in twinkling laughter shake. So there is as if a kind of a conspiracy all around this griffin to make it laugh. So when night comes, it brings within it in every bush and brake. Brake is a word which means uh, some kind of a bush which has thorns. So every bush and brake, kata chop or something like that. So there during the night the glowworms are flying, the glowworms are dancing, and along with them their lights that are glowing, that is also dancing, and as if uh, in twinkling laughter shake. So the atmosphere is full of laughter and joy. So that is something that the griffin does not like. The folk whose constant diet is thoughtless merry riot, how can they bear to so impair the griffin's peace and quiet? So the poet is asking that some folks, they are always very happy, they are very thoughtless, They are in a very jovial mood. They are laughing and dancing and making merry. But they do not consider the fact that by doing this all the time, by being in a merry mood or in a joyful mood all the time, they are disturbing the griffins, impair, meaning to disturb or, you know, make the griffin kind of obviously it would damage the dignity of the griffin. The griffin is a peaceful and quiet creature which does not like any kind of mirth or joyful shouting or dancing or any show of enjoyment. So people who are kind of they are born and bred in thoughtless merry riot. Constant diet here means obviously it is a constant kind of situation with them, a mental situation where they're always happy and they are not sad or they do not feel serious like the griffin. The griffin's den lies hidden, their cheerful thoughts are chidden, chidden from chide meaning to rebuke or reprimand. So cheerful thoughts are not allowed to enter in that den, which lies in a very secluded spot. It is hidden from public view. He lines the walls with frowns and brawls, and laughter stands forbidden. So it is the place which is full of kind of um, you can say very and uh, serious and sad thoughts. The griffin is sort of making it a habit to remain in a very thoughtful, in a very sad and serious and in a morose kind of a mood. So laughter stands forbidden. So obviously here the griffin is not going to allow any kind of laughter to disturb its peace and quiet. So right from the beginning of this poem, we find that this is a very strange creature, which it is very unusual that this creature does not like laughter or joy. So light, air, joyous laughter, they have no entry in the lair of the griffin. So this is the poem. Now, of course, here, if we look at the meaning of this poem, so the first thing that would strike us is that it is a strange and fantastic creature, the griffin and and its family members, because they live a joyless, laughterless life, and they have vowed never to allow anything in nature to tickle them to smile. So they live in a constant fear to preserve gravity, seriousness, and it is a kind of a constant anxiety. They have to wage endless battle against various conspiracies to break their serious stance. And this fear and strife on the part of the griffin is due to the fact that they seem vulnerable to the normal, joyous practices of all creatures. So each and every creature shows some kind of, you know, joyful nature. But the griffin is an exception here. So a funny tale, if it is told in front of the griffin, it would evoke laughter and it would be a torture for the griffin. Even the, some things in nature like the light breeze the sights of the autumnal sky with strange heaps of cheerful cloud, as it is described here. Um, the dancing fireflies at night, they are very much things which are to be avoided. So it has this Griffon, or the Griffon society as a whole, they have a philosophy of life which is very much abnormal, and it cannot be uh, a good way of life. So they become a laughing stock. Obviously, they dread laughter, but they themselves become laughing stock. Now, it is a funny poem on the surface, of course, because uh, the description is so funny, but there is satire also here. So there is an allegorical implication that in the human world itself, there might be some people who are always in a very, serious or very morose or in a very bad kind of a mood. They do not participate in cheerful functions or cheerful parties. They do not laugh. They are always in a very, you can say, ill temper. So I am reminded of, the story by Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, where Mr. Scrooge is one such character who is a very strange character. If you have read the story, A Christmas Carol, you will see the resemblance, because Mr. Scrooge there is also a person who does not find anything joyful even during Christmas. So there are some people like this, and they are indeed ridiculous. And the normal desire to enjoy life and share its cheers and smiles, uh, that do not occur to them. So they are always very gloomy and serious. They are a source of unhealthy irritation. So they are subject to some emotions which are unhealthy, negative emotions, not positive. And they become unsocial in this way, because here the griffin lives in a secluded spot, in a secluded den, which is far away from society or civilization. And it is in a constant fear, lest anyone should come and try to uh, engage it in a kind of a conversation, and that would lead it to laughter. So obviously, the poet is criticizing this habit in a uh, humorous way, and he is suggesting that melancholy should never be uh, anyone's constant, emotion. One should not always remain in a sad, in a very morose, in a very gloomy mood. So obviously, the message is this to the people who cannot appreciate laughter or merrymaking, who are always in a very uh, irritable kind of a mood. So that is the message given by Sukumar Roy to these people. So here, uh, obviously, the poem has an inner meaning. The uh, all the poems in Abol Tabol, obviously, they are full of laughter and joy. Though there are inner meanings, of course, then some of the poems, especially the last poem in the collection, it is full of sadness, and it is a kind of a, pointer to the poet's own death, which would occur soon, because the poet understood that his days were limited. So most of the poems are enjoyable. They are full of mirth and laughter. And this poem also is such a poem which ridicules this overt seriousness. People who are overtly they are overt serious, they cannot participate in laughter and joy with their fellow human beings. So the griffon here is a representative or a kind of a symbol of people who are uh, morose and or grumpy, irritable kind of people. So this is the griffon's grouse. I think you have understood this poem. Now we will pass on to another poem, which is the poem that is also very well known, the Perfume Crisis. The Perfume Crisis. In Bengali, the title is Gandho Bichar. So Gandho Bichar, obviously, there is a strange smell uh, coming, which is not a bad smell, but uh, in a king's court. And here, the king is very suspicious and he wants to know what kind of a smell this is from actually the Montri. So, uh, obviously, the vizier, as it is translated here, he has applied some perfume on his gown, on his dress, and that is the smell that is coming, which the king feels very suspicious about. So let us read this poem, The Perfume Crisis. The king was enthroned, they rang the great bell, but the vizier sat without hope. For the king said, My lord, what a very strange smell. Are you smearing your gown with some dope? So the the morning assembly was taking place in the king's court, and the king was in his throne, he was enthroned, and the bell was rung. So the bell, which would obviously signal the beginning of the shobha, the king's uh, meeting, assembly. But the vizier here means the minister. He was in a very kind of uncertain mood, sat without hope, meaning uh, he was not feeling very cheerful or very confident, because the king asked him, what kind of smell is coming from your dress, your gown? Because he feels that the vizier has smeared his gown with a kind of dope. So dope, of course, you know, it means narcotics or drugs, but here it means a kind of smell. So that is the first stanza. In each stanza, there are 4 lines. Your Majesty, sir, cried the ancient vizier, it's simply a pleasant perfume. That's easily said, shot the king with a sneer. Let the doctor examine the fume. So the vizier tried to explain himself. He said that it's nothing, sir, your honor, but it is only a kind of a perfume that I have applied on my dress. But the ancient vizier, so obviously he was an old man, it's quite pleasant. Gandho to noy mondo. So that is the Bengali version. But the king would not listen to the vizier because he has become suspicious. And he said that you can say that, but obviously he does not believe him. So with a sneer, he says, let the doctor examine the fume. So the doctor has to be called, and he would be able to, after smelling the perfume, the cloth of the vizier, he would be able to say for certain whether it was a good smell. But the leech wouldn't stir. But the leech wouldn't stir here means, just as a leech, is joke, it sucks the blood of human beings or animals. It just gets stuck onto the skin of the person, and it cannot be easily taken away. Only salt, if it is applied, then the leech will come away. So the doctor actually was very much afraid to smell the gown of the vizier. I have a cold in my head and couldn't distinguish the stuff. So obviously, if you have a bad cold, your sense of smell would not be working. So that is an excuse. Of course, he did not have a cold, but since he wanted to be excused and he didn't want to smell the gown of the vizier, he made this lame excuse. The Chancellor then, His Majesty said, but he'd had a noseful of snuff. So the Chancellor has to be called. But unfortunately, the Chancellor also, he has taken snuff. So noshi. Uh, Snuff is noshi in Bengali. So if anyone takes noshi, then that is going to block his nose and he is not going to able to smell or get a good smell. So this was a problem. So they hastily summoned the chief of police. He just chewed some betel and spices. And what smell could last in the presence of these? So, so he couldn't help in the crisis. So the chief of police was called. So the third person after the vizier, sorry, not the vizier, but the doctor, the chancellor, the chief of police was called, but he also proved to be incapable of smelling because he had chewed betel and spices, a very spicy betel leaf, that is pan with jorda. That is why, obviously, the strong smell of the spices, it would drive away all other smells. So he would not be able to help the king in this critical situation. Why then, said the king, call my first wrestler in. I am shaking with fever, he swore. It came in the night, he explained with a grin, and fell fast asleep on the floor. So the Palwan, it is referred to in the Bengali version, the original version. Now, his name is Vim Singh. It's not mentioned here, but uh, the first wrestler, he is the most powerful wrestler in the whole kingdom. And he is called, but he also is so afraid that he has developed a fever, which he says that I have been sick from last night with a very high fever. And he explained with a grin. Of course, in the Bengali version, it was not a grin, but he fell fast asleep on the floor. Actually, he fell on the floor, did not fall asleep as such. But the wrestler also proved to be useless in this situation. The king turned at last to his brother-in-law, imploring his aid for the state. So the brother-in-law. Now the brother-in-law is named in the Bengali original Chandraketu. Now this Chandraketu, it is not mentioned. The name is not mentioned, but the brother-in-law is called to help him. Dear boy, he replied, why this devious draw? Why don't you just bump me off straight? So the brother-in-law addresses the king as dear boy, meaning why are you so cruel? Why are you? It seems that you want me to be killed. So, but you are doing this in a very devious, roundabout way. So, why are you doing this in a roundabout way? So, why don't you kill me straight? So, obviously, if you want to kill me or you want to pronounce the death sentence on me, don't do this in this way. A hoary old usher stood watching the fun. So it is Briddho Najir in the Bengali version, hoary old usher. So uh, after all these people failed in enlightening the king about the nature of the smell. He must have been 90 years old. He said to himself, "My life's almost done. It really can't hurt to be bold." So obviously he was 90 years old. So he said that I have almost reached the end of my life. So if I die in smelling this strange perfume, there's no loss for me. So let me try. So he plucked up his courage and fiddlesticks cried, "I'm shocked at such sad hesitation. If His Majesty asked me, I'd gladly abide, of course, for a fit compensation." So Bokshish, he wants Bokshish. So obviously he says that he is very sad to see all these people who are young and able-bodied. They are backing away. They are not going to smell and help the king to find out the nature of the smell. But though he is old and infirm, he is going to try. But the king should, if he survives, the king should give him ample compensation, that is bokshish. "1,000 gold pieces shall be your reward." The king made his promise straight down. The old man advanced on hearing the word and lowered his nose to the ground. So now, when he heard that the king had declared that he will get 1,000 gold pieces, so that was really a huge fortune for the old usher, and he went straight to the vizier and started to smell. He lifted its folds, he smelt every seam, he sniffed all the scent he could draw. The courtroom was hushed. Was it true or a dream? The people stood gazing with awe. So now the whole court was extremely surprised at the audacity or the bold behavior of this old usher. So he was smelling all the parts of the gown. He sniffed all the scent he could draw. So he was smelling for a long time and nothing happened to him. So the whole courtroom was hushed. It was, there was pin drop silence, as it is called. And they were really in a fix. Was it true or were they dreaming? The people stood gazing with awe, with a lot of, they were awestruck. They set the bells pealing, they beat on the drum. The fame of the usher was rife. A hero indeed to do what he had done, with never a thought of his life. So obviously, the usher had done wonders. He has finally been able to smell that peculiar smell which was coming from the gown of the vizier, and he uh, was courageous enough to smell that particular perfume. So here, obviously, the courage of the old man is celebrated throughout the kingdom. The bells are ringing, the drums are beating, and the usher's fame spread throughout the kingdom. So he was hailed as a hero, someone who was no less than a hero. So how could he, with no thought of, uh, sacrificing, he sacrificed his life because everyone was so afraid. All the young people, they were so afraid of losing their lives if they smelled that particular smell. But the usher was really a brave person. So this is the poem. Now I'll stop here today. I'll not be explaining this poem today. Rather, the critical the kind of analysis that can be done, we'll do it in our next class.